Inside the Goot, Tim Priester with Tim O'Malley. Brian Kelly just finished up his press conference previewing Notre Dame versus Michigan. Some positive news on personnel, Jafar Armstrong and Sean Crawford, and it sounds like Dante Vaughn will be a significant part of the game plan defensively.
Yeah, and Jafar Armstrong, Brian Kelly was all in on him, saying he is full go. They kind of just got him a taste against USC, which we've discussed previously. They might have wanted to get him more and then realized that wasn't going to happen as the practice week went on, which makes total sense. He had abdominal surgery. Now 3 weeks back, you should expect to see Jafar Armstrong ready to roll. He was a little tepid on the Sean Crawford, or maybe I took it that way, on the Sean Crawford prognosis, saying he's involved in 7-on-7s, 1-on-1s, and we'll see what he can do. My thought is if you could get 10 nickel snaps out of Sean Crawford, you got something great out of Sean Crawford this week. I would not expect to see him start just from the way Brian Kelly kind of approached it.
I mean, maybe Crawford is where Armstrong was a couple weeks ago. They're just now really going to test him. Apparently they didn't want to do that last week in the abbreviated week, and so now they'll give him a test. Dante Vaughn, with his size, makes sense for Notre Dame playing against Michigan's big receivers. And I did ask about receivers, knowing what the differences were generally between the two receiving cores of USC and Michigan, but it's 2 games in a row now with the week in between where Notre Dame's playing a quality receiving core. This one's a little bit different than USC's speedy. Not that Michigan doesn't have a speedy receiver, but it's a different kind of group.
Well, I don't think you look at Michigan's receivers and think absolute game wreckers, let's change our plan, which is what Brian Kelly did last week. And you asked Kelly, hey, is this adjustment similar to how you had to adjust to the air raid where you may have to tweak your approach? And he said, no, we are going to go back to our defensive structure. And he's not going to give away his game plan. Obviously, they'll have tweaks for Michigan as well. But for Irish Illustrated subscribers, do not think it will be a 3-down front that you have come to hate in the 60-minute period against USC on October 12th.
Yeah, this is a different kind of adjustment and something that's not nearly as complicated as installing really a completely new defense for USC. Some positive things about Tommy Kramer. Tommy Kramer named a mid-season All-American at right guard. Brian Kelly was asked about whether that's a drastic change for Tommy Kramer in his performance. Not so much change in his performance, but more of an off-season adjustment.
I thought that was a telling comment by Kelly. He didn't want to say that that he wasn't good enough last year. Now, he was replaced in the lineup twice, once for an ankle and once simply because he wasn't playing as well as they thought he could be, but just saying that it was a full-on change for Kramer in the offseason to get himself to this point. And I think his second-string midseason All-American nomination deserves a lot more merit than whatever he got in the preseason, because Tommy Kramer has definitely improved and played really good football of late.
Again, especially against USC, I thought he was great. He made some mistakes, but he was still great. Brian Kelly addressed, and he's fallen on a sword a couple times on this with regard to the cadence as they tried to run that effectively, a silent cadence at Georgia. They didn't do a very good job. They started addressing that with the Michigan crowd beginning last week, which was the right thing to do. It was my understanding, as I later found out, that they didn't address the cadence issues for the Georgia game until Thursday or Friday, and by that point, they weren't as prepared as they needed to be.
Yeah, you would hope they would be now. If it was all of last week, it'll be all of this week, and they know what to expect. I mean, you probably know what hiccups could be there. Ian Book, Jarrett Patterson, the most important players to that end, and I guess the tackle, since they were jumping all over the place in Athens. But I wouldn't expect to see – you're going to see a false start. I mean, the 2013 Michigan crowd was what Brian Kelly said the greatest crowd he's ever faced was. Now, he does not, including the last 2 years with Georgia. That's a couple years back, but it's going to be super loud. They're going to be hungry. Every time Notre Dame comes in, that crowd is great, and that's why Notre Dame doesn't often win there, and they have never at night.
Notre Dame's on midweek break here, so it's a great opportunity for Brian Kelly and his staff to really work with the players and prepare for Michigan. Michigan, of course, coming off the tough loss at Penn State. So advantage Notre Dame in terms of preparation as we move forward during Notre Dame versus Michigan week.